Well, I'd like to begin this morning by just giving a warm welcome to all of my fellow ministers who are in attendance today. Would you please make yourselves known? All right. You were paying attention. Thank you to Chris for reading those words of integration to us, and thank you to Pastor Robert from the UCC in Utah for reminding us of the truth that all of us, not just a few special people, but all of us are called to be ministers, that you are a minister. To wake up each day and to remind yourself, I am a minister. How may I serve today? How may I be God's presence in the world today? How can I be a bearer of God's love and light in the world? That to me is what Jesus meant in today's gospel when he says, you are the light of the world. He's saying, you are a minister of God. Go forth and be that light into the world. The word minister comes from a Latin word which means servant. All of us are called to serve the world by shining our light. That is our vocation. And as we heard in those words this morning, that calling does not come from outside of us. It's not an exterior voice. That calling comes from within us. It is an inner voice. And that's why it is so important for all of us to have a daily prayer and meditation practice. It's so important for us to get quiet so that we can listen to that voice, to that calling. Scripture tells us, be still and know the I am. Jesus is telling his students that there is something inside of them that needs to come forth. The Latin word education, the Latin word for education, educare, means to bring forth what is within. That's what education is. Jesus was a great educator. He was a wonderful teacher. He was trying to bring forth what was already in his students. As we heard in our words this morning, you don't need to get this salt or this light. You were already born with it. You just need to bring it forward. And as a great educator, Jesus understood that his students were not well educated. Most of them had never been to school. Most of them were completely illiterate. They couldn't read or write. So Jesus had to teach these very profound spiritual teachings in a very simple way. And he says so beautifully to them, you are salt of the earth. And they got it, because during Jesus' time, salt was a very valuable and precious commodity. Salt was worth more than its weight in gold. Throughout the Mediterranean, people used cakes of salt as currency, as money. In fact, our English word salary comes from the Latin word for salt, which is sal, S-A-L, my name. Okay? And why was salt so valuable? Well, because there was no refrigeration in Jesus' day. And salt had to be used to preserve food, meat and fish. Salt was also used for medicinal purposes. It was used to disinfect and to heal. And of course, it's used like it's used today, to bring zest and to bring flavor. Jesus is using this salt metaphor to explain something profound in a simple way. To say to his students, I know you're poor, I know you're illiterate, I know you're oppressed, but guess what? You are a valuable and precious commodity. He wanted them to know their worth, that they were more powerful than they could ever imagine, and that like salt, They had the qualities to preserve and protect, to treat and to heal, and to bring boldness and zest and flavor to the world. And then after he tells them they're salt, he tells them they're the light of the world. A few months ago, I gave a talk on that. It is called You Are the Light. And if you were not here then, you can watch it online. But in that talk, I quoted Carl Sagan's famous line, where he said that we are made of star stuff. That what's in the stars, that light, that same stuff is within us. And it's what Jesus meant by saying, you are the light, the kingdom of heaven is within you. You just need to bring it forth. That's your purpose for being, is to bring forth that light. And again, Jesus didn't say, you can be salt and you can be light if you accept me as your personal Lord and Savior. He says, you already have it. You already have it. All you need to do is just bring it forth. But most people do not. Henry David Thoreau said famously, most men go to their graves without ever singing their song. Okay? He said most men lead lives of quiet desperation, and they go to their graves with their song still in them. Okay? Most of us, because of our life experiences, because of our fears, because of our thoughts that we're unworthy, we do not shine our light. And our salt has lost its flavor. We've lost our zest for life, our unique flavor that we bring to the world. Now, why do we do this? Well, I shared with you last year the words of the contemporary spiritual writer Marianne Williamson, and they bear repeating for today's message. Marianne said this: it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're more powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, well, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within you. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Isn't that wonderful? We are born, our purpose for being is to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. That's why we're here. To play small doesn't serve the world. To say, well, I'm not going to speak my truth here because I don't want to make people uncomfortable. That doesn't serve a purpose. That's salt without flavor. That's hiding your light under a bushel basket. This week, when more crazy stuff was happening in our country, I was comforted and inspired by the words of another UCC minister. Her name is Reverend Nicole Havelka. And some of you know Nicole. She's come to worship with us several times when she worked with our Michigan conference. Now Nicole works in our Ohio conference. But this week she had these great words of wisdom. She said, "You were born for such a time as this." Christians refer to it as a calling. Yogis refer to it as dharma. Whatever you call it, it is your higher purpose. Live it. The constant barrage of news media may be keeping you unfocused, perhaps even feeling helpless in the face of unrelenting turmoil and injustice. But you were born for such a time as this. I think of my lawyer friends who grabbed laptops and ran off to airports to help unfairly detained strangers who they might never meet return to their loved ones. I think of my many friends who made signs and stepped weary feet to pavement to protest, some for the first time ever in their lives. I think of my friends who have had difficult conversations over dinner tables with their loved ones, listening to their uncomfortable thoughts and speaking up to challenge their assumptions in a spirit of truthful love. I think of the once meek people who many have never imagined calling their elected officials, and now they're making calls. You were all born for such a time as this. Live your call, your dharma, your purpose. If we all do this, if we all do our small part, we will get through this and we will build the beloved community. I love those words of Nicole. They have sustained me this week. And I also saw this week that the author Carolyn Mace said, maybe all the years we've invested in spirituality and in inner work has been in preparation for this time right now. I am so grateful for those words of wisdom from those wise women. I do believe that. I do believe that all of the spiritual reading and workshops and prayer and meditation and everything that we have been doing has prepared us for right now, and that we were born for a time such as this. And how perfect was our reading from Isaiah for right now. The lectionary readings each week are planned 3 years in advance. But those words are so perfect for this week, even though they were written over 2,000 years ago. The prophet Isaiah says, shout out, speak your voice, raise your voice like a trumpet. He says, loose the bonds of oppression. He says, welcome the homeless into your home. He says that we are here to bring light to injustice. His words are, when you do these things, then your light will break forth like the dawn. So you were born with this light. How do you let it break forth like the dawn? By doing those things the prophet Isaiah said, to shout out, to speak your truth, to fight for injustice, to welcome in the homeless. When you do those things, you will shine your light. Now, I was very inspired this week as well from our UCC General Minister, our president. His name is Reverend John Dorhauer, and he said, to ask us to hold our tongues right now in the face of injustice is tantamount to treason. We will betray our calling as Christian ministers if we remain silent and do nothing right now. I am so pleased to hear this week, not only from people in the UCC, but nearly every single Christian denomination's leader, including the head of the Catholic Church, the Pope, they have all come out this week and they have denounced the Muslim travel ban. In fact, the Pope said it would be hypocrisy to call yourself a Christian and to support this ban. Now, some might say, well, that's being very divisive. We should be bringing people together. I mean, you're a religious leader. You shouldn't be dividing people over politics. You should be uniting people. Our call to shine our light and to speak our truth will make people uncomfortable. I shared with you last week, Gandhi made people uncomfortable, Martin Luther King made people uncomfortable, and Jesus made people uncomfortable, which is why they killed him. If you choose right now to remain silent and do nothing, that renders your salt flavorless. You're hiding your light under a bushel basket. And I know people say that. Can't we go back to when Facebook was fun? Let's post pictures of kittens. I'm tired of political posts. Okay. I'm sorry that what's happening in the world is bumming you out. But this is our time. It's what Reverend Nicole reminded us. We were born for this time. Everything we've been doing has been preparing us for this. So let us be people of salt and light. Let us go forth into the world. Let us add our zest and our flavor and our light. This is our time to be bold and zestful, to be courageous and truthful, and to be people of light, shining our light on injustice, bringing truth to a world that is hearing lies. Namaste.